Hello fellow web map makers, welcome to another live map making session. I hope the sound is good, screen looks fine. As far as I can see, please let me know if you have any trouble hearing or understanding me, and then so I can check the settings here. Yeah, okay, sound seems to be good. Thank you very much, Sue. So we're ready to start into another mapping session. Tonight I want to take a look at older hex map style as well as the general function campaign cartographer, and this is hex maps. That goes back to earliest gaming material, board games, and especially conflict simulation games, strategy games, and then also through that filtering into role-playing games where maps would be drawn on a hex grid for easy measuring of distances and showing terrain and stuff, especially as if you're using the map as a kind of game board. As Remy says, hexes are cool. I always like the look and the idea of mapping in that specific form or format. But I've not actually done it myself, and I'm just occasionally dabbled a little bit with it. And so, excuse me if I'm a little bit out of my comfort zone tonight using this, but I'm sure we'll manage. Why hexes, you say? Yeah, well, it's a basic geometric thing. Hexes are the shape with the most corners that can put together seamlessly on a flat surface to fill an area. Everything above that, like regular 8-pointed shapes or 8 corner shapes, don't fit together anymore, and anything less, like squares, will just give you less options if you're moving from one place to another. One of the prime considerations in gaming stuff like this is moving pieces or game icons from one across the map on the hexes, and hexes just give you the largest number of options to move one from one space to another. They make it therefore even fairly easy to count distances and stuff, while being as realistic is probably the wrong word, but giving the most realistic options for movement that you can on a grid. All right, and yeah, what do we have in Campaign Cartographer to support that? Of course, we do have the basic things of just overlaying a hex grid, grid overlay over the map. You can do that on any map and just apply a hex grid on that and use that. That's simple and easy, but hex maps in the sense I'm using today is a little bit different. This is where you actually draw on the hex grid and place hex tiles next to each other to show the terrain. And we do have a few drawing styles that take advantage or make this possible. Specifically, and I'm taking on the first one ever I think I did on for Campaign Cartographer quite a few years back, where we set up a system to automate as much as possible in the setting, and we're going to take a look at that. So if you've got any questions during the session, please let us know in the chat, and we'll happy to answer anything people in the chat, or something what I can show while show on screen. And so we get a little bit of interaction and feedback going. So the style you're seeing on screen is the one I was talking about. That's the Overland Hex, Hex Overland style, actually, from the annual 2010, I think it was. So, oh gosh, 14 years back. Horrible. And we are going to create a new map and this, and then take a look at the options that it gives us and what we can do to customize it and do our own things with it. So as the start off is the same as always. I'm going to go up to the file toolbar, click the new map icon, not save my settings, go to Overland Maps, And then this is just still the old styles, and you can see annual hex overland. And as you can see, it's not actually doesn't come in in a imperial metric version. There's just one version, but since you can assign basically any distance to the hexes anyway in kilometers or miles, it doesn't really matter much whether you think of it in metric or in imperial. I'm gonna click next, and I'm also gonna just leave the default size at 1000 by 800. This gives off a nice little area to map with the hexes. And I could go on and add a grid in the new drawing with that already, but this is for this style is a bit different, not so good to do, because there are some settings that if you set up the grid in the drawing itself, that will make it easier to work with. So we're going to leave it at this here and just click finish and go to my video folder and save the map. Next map. Here we go. And there's our basic setup, and you'll see from the dots, I'm not sure, probably hard to see on the video. I'll just make the grid style a little bit larger for a second so you can actually see more of it. I'm going to change that back because that's not so convenient here for me on the screen. And there's already a grid, snap grid enabled. Campaign Cartographer can do hex grid with their special setup. And this is already one by default, but we are going to do a new one here just to show you how to do that, as we also need want the outline of the hexes. And let's leave the default settings and just go to draw hex or square overlay, grab a horizontal hex grid. We do need the horizontal version here because if you take a look at the left, the symbols are horizontally aligned, and they won't work properly if you do the vertical hex grid with this style. But I'm going to show you at the end, hopefully, how to set up a style or modify the style to work with vertical hex grids. So we're going to get to that later. And then we have a grid size here. 50 miles per hex is perhaps a little bit large. Let's make it, don't want to make it too small, because the more hexes on the map, the more work we have. And we just have our hour here, so let's make a 40-mile hex grid. And we're going to turn off labels. That would be numbers within the hexes for the hex grid, and we don't want that. Important is that we set the snap grid here, because we need that for placing the hex symbols. And we can actually could add more points on the grid. Basically, if you consider a hex, this tells you where the cursor will snap to. This is the center of the hex and the 6 corners. If you also check midpoints, it would also snap to the center of each side of the hex. So you've got 6 additional snap points. But that is going to be especially if you're larger hex grids, then it gets a bit difficult to actually hit the correct snap if you're clicking the mouse. So it's a bit of a trade-off whether you want more options to place things. For the default style, centers and corners are fine, so we'll leave this as it is. And then we're going to apply, and you can see that the grid has changed because we've set our own custom grid now. And you might just be able to see the light gray hex grid. That's peculiar to the style, that by default it uses this fairly light gray as the hex. I'm gonna change this here so just people can see the grid more easily on screen on the video. So I'm gonna go change properties, click my, actually I need to go in here because our hex square grid is frozen. It's default on most styles, so I'm gonna thaw that, grab the grid, do it and change the color to black. There we go, and now we can see the grid properly. And then I'm going to zoom out again, and I'm going to now switch the grid back to the small style, because when we've got the actual grid visible, we don't need the points that much visible on the screen. There we go, and there's our hex grid. So far, nothing special. You can do this in any map. If you've drawn a map in a normal style before this was just cover the map you've drawn, and you can then use this to make this a game board or just to measure distances. But for this style, we can now use it to draw stuff, and this works as following. You've got the hex symbols here, and we this is the catalog with all the ones. You can also go through all the hexes. You can also click individual ones here and load subsections. And I'm just want to grab the basic green one here, the farmland symbol, and use this to draw our map shape. And the thing is, this is one of the few instances where holding the mouse and dragging the mouse will actually have a specific function in Campaign Cartographer. I can just click and then it will just place one hex down. You'll see the style, if the symbol is defined as a hex symbol, will automatically adjust the size to match the hex grid on the map. Even if I don't need to worry about my symbol scale or anything. If I right click here, you'll see that I'm actually now at 40. That's the, if you remember, that is the distance of the grid I set. So the base symbol is just 1 unit across, and because it is a hex symbol, it automatically adjusts this to the 40 size of the grid here. But if I click and hold the mouse down, I can actually paint the shape here. As you can see, I can just draw a shape here. I'm going to do an island and use this to paint an outline of my map style, of my continent. And as you can see, it's automatically placed behind the the grid itself. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw across here, and you don't need to worry about doubling up. Campaign Cartographer will just place one hex per grid space, so we can do this just like bitmap editing with a paintbrush and fill the whole thing with symbols. Quick and easy. And there we are. Got the first question from how this is done. That's a programming thing. This is actually how do you define it? I can show you if I let's take a look at our symbols. I'm going to go into the symbol manager, and we've got the farmland symbol here, and I'm click options. This option here, hex symbol, does the magic. If you yes, you can see you can set it to be a vertical hex, but then in these ones here you'll see the images will be misaligned. You just check this option, and then Campaign Cartographer will consider this a hex symbol and automatically adjust it to fit hex symbols and do this drawing thing by holding the mouse button down. It will obviously not work on symbols where that mean you have no hex grid enabled, or it's not actually a hex symbol. So this will, you do need the basic hex shape in the symbol, or you will get unforeseen results. There we go, and basically this all the functionality is in the background. That's programmed in. And that's nothing I can tell you much about it, because that's not what I get into campaign cartographer. All right, so there we go. And now see what happens. Say I don't want to just a green field. I do want some other options here, forests and mountains, of course, places on the map. And I can just now grab another symbol, say I want to place some symbols, and draw these just as the other ones across here. Here we go. And the trick is the hex symbols. As you paint over an existing one, campaign cartographer will replace the existing one. So let's hide all the other sheets here, just to have these here. And if I do a list option, you can see here I've got one symbol on the symbols sheet. And if I take this one here, that I placed over an existing one, I still get, oh no, actually I do, yes, because, oh actually, mineral mountains, I thought I would be replacing these. Let's have a look, or is it just because if I hide the minerals mountains? No, okay, it didn't. Okay, then I will see. I'm already unfamiliar with things, so I was expecting this to be replaced, the hexes, but it doesn't do that. Oh, okay, so I stand corrected. So we do place them above the others. Okay. Perhaps it's possible that it just works on the if you were on the same layer. Let's give that a try. So say I wanted to replace some of the hills with mountains. Let's have a look what happens. And I'm going to grab the mountain hex, and just draw this across here. There we go. It doesn't work at all. Okay. Am I on the wrong? Here we go, let's try this again. This time it has worked. Yes, I think I do have to be on the same layer. That's what I was forgetting. Let's have a look. If I hide the vegetation layer now and take a look, all the other sheets, info list, then I just have one symbol here and not two. So if we're working on the same layer, which makes sense, then the symbols, hex symbols, get replaced. Excellent. Very good. Show everything again. And the vegetation catalog, vegetation layer. Here we go. And then I can go in and, for example, add some forested hills here. These are vegetation, or a mixture of vegetation and mountain symbols with the hills here. So, and I can also go to the forest or the vegetation symbols, and here place some symbols for light forests, and build my map up this way. Can actually turn sheet effects on. See that we do have some effects here on the little bit to set the coastline off. But we can also do different things there, of course. And so that's a bit we've done here on the map inside. And now I want to do a bit of work on the sea around our island. So I'm going to go back to the here. I've got the watercolor, the coast color basically already in the map, so I want to add some ocean tiles, just some darker color a little bit further in, and as you can see I can do the same thing as with the land tiles, just fill this, holding the mouse button down and filling in the area with the darker symbols. Go. There we are. So let's say I want to add a bit of a larger lake here in the center of the map. I can do the same thing. And yeah, okay, now I'm seeing that's because I'm on the layer Coast C, and these are actually on the vegetation layer. They don't get replaced. What I should be able to do here to change that is to change to the vegetation layer first, and then grab the water coast hex and replace them. That works fine. There we go. All right. Then I wanted to add an even darker. Now I need to go back to my water. Actually, let's go back here, load the Coast C layer again, and then just add a few even darker hexes in the corners. There we go. And then you can, of course, like here, take special symbols to show things like reefs and hazardous areas, like this. Place this around here. Just individual pieces to break up the general look a little bit. Go. Can also go in if you say you wanted to some icy waters up here in the north. Could grab these and just add a few ice axes at the edge of the map. And now we would want to go in and add more stuff here on the lands, on the landmass. See, we've got some badlands here. Place some here and say I don't have anything in the way of, we do have deserts, of course, so go in here. Place a bit of desert symbols down here. Complete oasis, and then just like this, and there we've got a desert area. And say I want to do a bit of a swampy area here. This direction, got swamp symbols. And then some jungles around those. Some hilly areas, and then some shrubland in this direction here. And then we do need a little bit, few more mountains. That's a volcanic area here. Some foothills around these, some normal hills. And then a bit more mountains this way here. Foothills, normal hills. And the good thing is you can always just simply overwrite these again if you later find that you do need something else in these locations. Forests, lighter forests on the edges here. And there we already got our basic shape for the land. Of course, you can always combine these with standard tools and you do get the drawing tools here linked in the ones if you just want to draw general shapes across this. I don't want to here, I just want to use the hex symbols for the different terrains and not draw irregular terrain backgrounds. But what I do need is, for example, rivers. Say I do want to show rivers on this map. We got a few standard tools for this here. If I right click on the rivers, display the samples. So you can also draw the lakes as irregular shapes, either smooth or fractals. Here are the different rivers sizes. So let's grab the default river. And we are now working on the grid again. You could either disable the snap and just draw freely, or if you're drawing a map where you want to make the rivers as to basically specific features of the hexes, then you could draw them along the center points of the ones, or you might want to have the rivers at the borders of the hexes. Then you can use the snap points on the hexes themselves to place that. So let's do that. So say I want to draw a river going up here, and I'm going to start on the corner here, and then I'm just going to click the corners of my hexes and have the river just basically running along the borders of the hexes. If I wanted to make it precise, I could go in and do this as not smooth paths, but as all right. Sorry, I just got a question here, Quentin. Actually, the symbols here got, I think they are, I was Quentin is asking basically whether why the symbols here, for example with the desert, did just place over the existing ones without the troubles I had with some others. I'm actually not entirely sure myself here at the moment. Just have a quick look whether we are to have multiple ones on top of each other. Yes, if I disable the grid, you see that I have two entities selected, so they're placed just above those. It might be a layering thing with the layers, that the underlying function automatically places some of these above or these in a specific order. I'm not entirely sure here. Alright, I was looking at the rivers. Say I wanted to have rivers that run precisely along the hex borders. I could go in and create a variant of the river tool. So let's say river default straight. And then just make this straight tool. And then you could just go in and draw this precisely along the river edges. But I do want to keep the ones we have here with the smooth rivers, just so they show up a little more nicely. So I'm gonna undo this. And here now I'm thinking I could leave it at this dark blue, or I could change the river colors to the same as the coast and lakes. So if I go in and change the properties here and change it to color 60, then now I accidentally changed the line width, which I did not want to do. So let's make that line width 10. It's probably too wide. I'm not sure what it was previously. 4 is a little wider. And I think that's actually quite a nice width. So make the rivers visible on the map. So what we're going to do, we're going to update our default tool. This time I'm just going to update it. The properties. So color 60. and for fixed width, and use this to draw a few more rivers here. Again, I'm going to use the corners of the hexes to draw relatively regular river lines here. To draw some rivers into the interior of our islet. There we go. Perhaps a little bit more down here, running down from the volcanoes. And we probably need something here in these marshlands. There we go. And we are getting there with the general layout of the map. I'm sorry. The hay fever is a little bit annoying at the moment, but not too bad yet, so I'm doing fine. Alright, so this is basically the general landscape shape, how we fill out the map with our normal mountains, rivers, lakes, forests, and so on. But we're missing still is, of course, structures like cities. And for that, we do have our structures catalog here. If I can get it to load. Here we go. And you see that these are basically overlay symbols which you place on top of existing ones. So if I want to grab a city, I'll just click the, and they will, of course, also snap to the grid, place it here, and it doesn't affect the other symbols behind it or anything, gets placed on here. So that it doesn't replace anything, even if you're working on the same layer. These, if you take a look at the symbols, let's get in here and take a look. Options, they are not actually defined as hex symbols. So they don't interfere with the others, basically. So they do have the same shape, and the grid makes them align correctly, and they have the same size, and because we used the others before, our symbol scale is set to 40, so they match the size as well, and they work with that. But they are not defined as the technical hex symbols that the landscape symbols are. Alright, so let's grab a couple other cities. Let's have one here and another one in the north. Then a few towns, something here on the south coast, one here and another town near this river. Not going to do villages, thinking we don't need to depict villages, but I want a couple castles. So let's put a castle here and one here. And we do have some smaller ones, special symbols here, towers, and of course you can create your own. And let's grab the tower symbol. One here, and we do want a cave somewhere here up in the mountains. There we go. And these just overlay nicely over the existing ones. The only thing I forgot, which I might want to do here, these are just on the same sheet as the other hex symbols, and so they don't pop out or anything, they're just in the same shape. If I wanted to make them out, I could go in and say move to sheet, grab the symbols on the structures layer, press D for do it, and put them on the symbol structures sheet. And they go on top of the, for example, they'll then be on top of the rivers, and you get this in this style, the little drop shadow, which makes them pop out a little more from the map, which I quite like, and makes them stand out a little more. And when we have got the symbol structures symbol sheet activated, they will go on that by default. Alright, so then we could go in and add some roads, similar to the rivers, these with the standard drawing tools, but here I do want to go by the center of the hexes. So I'll use the center points here. Add this, then continue from here. Oops, that was a bit of a misclick. I do want to go with the center of the hexes. Then go this way. Let's run along here. And then roll this way up to here. And we don't need another one going this way. And there we've got our roads on the map. I'm thinking, oh, I've got a bit of an overlap here with the lines apparently. Looks better. I did delete a node there, so the pattern did appear better on the line width. But I'm thinking, for my taste, the roads are a bit too dark perhaps, but what we could do is simply add a little bit of transparency. So say 60% transparency, move that up, and that way they don't stand out quite as strongly and blend a little bit better into the other colors. Yeah, I've got a mention from Quentin that he added some hex symbols to the style, which is a very good thing to do and very easy to do because it's a simple hex style. And I'm going to show you as the next step how to do that. So let's say what I'm missing here, I want some ruins. I'm looking at the structures here and I don't have any ruins in this style, and I do want something to show some old crumbling walls or towns or something on the map. So how do I do that? I'm just going to do this in this map, but you can also do this in the catalog itself. To create this as a default for all the maps you're doing in this style. So how to do that? I'm going into the symbol manager. Actually, before I work on the symbols, I should save the map. Always a good thing to do. Symbol manager. And I'm going to grab one that I want to base this on, and I want one of the structure symbols, so I'm going to grab the tower, and I'm going to clone it and call it CF3 Ruin. And then I'm going to edit it. Then I open up a new editing window by clicking the corners, and here's my map with the symbol, what's included in there. Let's just have a quick look what we have here. We just have basically two shapes. We've got the, or actually multiple shapes. That's the black ones, and then the gray outline. That's these shapes here. And as you can see, what we want to basically replace, or change is the tower on top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase this little thing here, the symbol, the window, and then I'm going to break this shape into going to break a gap into this, and then I'm just going to close it, edit, or path to poly. Oh no, actually, yeah, it's true. There we go, closed. And then I can add a few nodes in here to just make this regular. Like this. Then I'm gonna use the extract properties here to grab the same properties as the black outline, and then I'm just gonna add a few pieces down here, like the fallen stones. The on modifier is attaching this to the existing ones. Oops, that was a misclick. I need to polygon option first. Oh, come on. Here we go. There we are. F9. Just a few more stones down here. Always problem is if you use drawing by drawing tools, the base shapes do repeat a little bit differently than the drawing tools. You have to do an extra click, and that's why I tend to accidentally try to redo the modifiers. Here we go. And now I just need to adjust the outline here a little bit, and that I'm just gonna do by moving some nodes around. Just gonna move a few nodes first. This all the way to here. And then I'm going to use the insert node mode again to outline the shape. Come on, what's happened now? Okay, now I've undone something wrong here. I undo. Oh, that's better. Okay, I managed to mess this up a little bit with the refresh. Let's try again. There, and that should be fine. And there's our ruin symbol. And since I've that keeps all the properties, I could of course it's not visible in the catalog itself, of course, because I've worked in the drawing. I need to look at my internal symbols, and there's our ruin here. I can just grab that, turn on snap again, and place this here. Oh, actually, I do want to put it on the structures sheet, or symbol structure sheet, so I'm going to select that first, and then the symbol goes on that automatically, as you can see from the drop shadow. We go, and let's another one here on the hills. This question from Sue, what does the erase symbol do? Did we have the erase symbol here somewhere? The erase symbol should normally just delete the existing hexes in the map. I didn't see it. Where do we have the erase symbol? Where did you see the erase symbol? Did we have it in the... There we go, eraser. That should be allow you to just simply... I think you do need to set the sheet, the layer again. And then you can see it's basically an empty one that just simply lets you erase the existing symbols. then back. There we are. And these are now on the wrong sheet because I was still on the symbol structure sheet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move these to the proper normal symbol sheet. There we go. And there's our map to which we now would add our text labels, of course. And I don't think we have any preset text tools in this. No, it's new. So we could just set our text here. I think it's set up for darker text. So let's say I wanted a dark blue here on the lake and so on. Let's call it the upper lake. Mid-center, and you can of course also align that to the hex shapes, and there we go. And this way, say this is Kings Bay. And this is Port Royal. Actually, this we wanted to use a different color for, so let's make this a very dark gray. And align that to top left. Put it, not quite happy. Yeah, that's good. Port Royal, and this way you can go around the map and label your features. All right, and that's how we do a hex map in with this style. Very quick and easy, as you can see. We can do a fairly large map because it's a simple, very how do you say, simplified cartography or layout. Basically, you don't show exact places of mountains and borders, just general shape, but very useful if you're doing a game where it's movement by hexes, and hexes have a specified terrain type, and so on. But what I wanted to show you is how to translate this to vertical hexes. So let's have a quick look, and let's start a new map for that. I guess it's probably best. So let's go into the overland maps again and finish vertical maps. Question from Sue: can you make these hexes from bitmaps? Yes, you can do that as well. They just have to have the general shape and layout, and you would need partially transparent bitmaps where the corners are basically transparent to make a hex, because bitmaps are always rectangular. But it is totally possible. Depending on the scaling, you might sometimes run into little gaps that appear in the between the hexes. But if you have a grid with a little width above that, you will cover that up. Here we are, and let's do a quick hex. Let's keep the default 50-mile grid for this one. Oh, actually, no, what I wanted to do is I wanted to add a vertical grid. Vertical hex grid, apply, and change the color to black. No, not the line width, color to black. There we go. So what happens if I now go in, grab a mountain, and place a mountain here? Let's grab a mountain, check, yeah, what you would expect. The symbol is simply misaligned. So what happens if we set this symbol to actually say it is a vertical one? Then it's even, then the interior one is correct, but our X is misaligned. So what we need to do, we need to go through these and modify them. So basically what you have to do, you open up a symbol catalog, go into the symbol manager, grab the symbol. Oh, let's do this properly. So let's go and open up the symbol catalog. So for that we go into program data, C3+, symbols, maps, and annual, or just hex overland. No, I'm unsure what the folder for this is. CC3 hex is the one with the CC3 symbols. Annual. Do I need to check in? And this is another. Now let's have a quick look. I think I need to check in here. If I load this up, Fantasy Hex is the name of the symbol folder. Somewhere in the olden days, I wasn't always totally consistent in the naming of the style and the folders. That's why I didn't find it. The folder is called Fantasy Hex. So, let's go in here and go into the program data folder again. I don't want to load it in the catalog window. I do want to load the catalog as a CC3+ drawing itself. That's why I need to go through this route. Maps. Fantasy Hex. There we are. And let's grab the mountains here. Save this one. And there we've got the different symbols in here. And now let's do the SymDevs to Sheets function that puts all the symbols here on their own sheet, which we can now show all of them. Zoom in here, and now what we're going to do is we are going to rotate not the interior spaces but just the hex outline. So I'm going to do a non-visual rotate and just grab the edge here. So you've got 11 picked. Do it. And we're gonna, if I rotate by 60 degrees, that will just grab one corner and move it to the next, so no apparent change. So I need to rotate by half of that, 30 degrees. And the rotate center is the center point. There we go. And now we've got the vertical hexes. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do sheets to SymDevs to put all the different sheets back into their definitions. This is very handy function if you want to do edits on the symbols across multiple symbols. There we go. As you can see, we've got the symbols here in this now, while the interior images have not changed. And now I'm gonna save this as CA43V for vertical and not a drawing but a symbol catalog. There we go. And now I'm going to load up my vertical hex map again. And here I'm going to grab the vertical version of the symbols. And now I can grab that symbol. And what doesn't change anything. What happens? Why is that? That's because the old definition of the symbol is still in the map here. If I look into the interior symbol definitions of the drawing, I need to delete that first. So we get the fresh one if I click this. And what I didn't change, I forgot to change in the catalog. So let's go back there again and fix that. Now I need to go back into the program data. Sorry for the confusion. CC3+, symbols, maps, Fantasy Hex, my vertical ones here. Yes, I do need to change all these into vertical hexes. There we go. So this is correct afterwards. Okay, save the map, and now go back into our vertical hexes. Let's check that we need to delete that definition. And now we're going to try again. Grab the mountain, and there we go. Now we do have the correct vertical symbols. So this way, there's a little bit of work because you have to go through, if you want to change the whole style and make it work with vertically aligned hexes, you'll have to go into all the catalogs. You see, the updating is not very difficult or time consuming, but you have to go through that and change that. And there we go. And there's our... No, that's not the one to load. I wanted to load my first drawing hex map. Here we go. And there's our map. And we would now go in, and perhaps what we can also do, we can do some adjustments from the very old vector styles. If I want to do something nicer, say I wanted to have a nicer outline of the coast. So this is all, as you can see here, on the outline of the symbols. Say turn this off, instead let's add an edge striping. Let's go into our filters, images. There should be some nice striping images here. Let's say this one looks nice. Open, and we know one hex is 40 units wide, so let's make it perhaps half that, 20 units, no blur, apply, and there we've got a nice outline. Might even make it a little bit smaller, let's say 12. And there we do have a striping outline on our coastline. Or perhaps we might even find some nicer, but better suited PNG for that. Our map here, say we wanted some of the blue here, or this one. And perhaps we could blur that a little bit. So say 1 unit blur. And this way we do have a coast outline around our hexes, which looks quite nice. Or we could, what we can also do, we could change the blur to a little bit to be no, not the blur, sorry, about the glow here, and make this an inside glow. Make it a dark green. This one perhaps. And just a small one. Not totally happy about that. Let's make this a bit stronger. Perhaps we need to move it down from the edge striping. There we go. Then we've got a bit of a darker offset of the coastline towards the interior. And this way you can mess around with the effects on the symbols. Yeah, and the color palette, today I'm not so happy with this palette, with this pastel palette I created for the style at the time. This is the one, and you can of course change that, but that's a bit goes too far now because our time is up. That's something I wanted to do, perhaps talk about changing the colors, but that would be something for a different session. So I hope you've learned a little bit about hex maps in Campaign Cartographer, and see that with the correct style setup and the correct symbols, they're really easy to draw. They have some certain peculiarities, like you can draw the click and hold, click and drag type of drawing in this, which is unusual for campaign cartographer. But it does work nicely because you don't need such a high precision like with many other drawing functions. It works quite nicely. All right. Hope you enjoyed tonight's session. I am not entirely sure yet I can do a video session next week because that's just before Easter, before the Good Friday. So I'll let everyone know whether there will be a video session next week. And until then, have a nice time. And if you don't see me, if I don't read you, have a nice Easter. All the best and have a good night. Bye bye.